Welcome to Nature Calls, Conversations from the Hudson Valley. Our team's goal is to present science-based information about gardening and all things nature in New York's Hudson Valley. Our hosts are Master Gardener volunteers for the Cornell Cooperative Extension of Columbia and Greene counties, midpoint along the Hudson River Valley. So if you're interested in gardening or nature or just nuggets of information about what's happening outside your door, listen in and enjoy the conversation. Whatever the season, we'll always have something to talk about.
This is Nature Calls, Conversations from the Hudson Valley. Today we are presenting the third and final portion of the Retrospective series of previously aired segments of Tools of the Trade and The Grateful Shed. Tim Kennelty discusses plant trials as a tool for the gardener, while Annie Scibienski gives us information about various actual garden tools, such as shovels and forks.
Hi, and welcome to Tools of the Trade, a recurring segment of this podcast that highlights a website, app, or book that we master gardeners find to be an essential resource. I'm your host for today, Tim Kennelty. Here at Nature Calls, we've talked about how to choose the right perennials for your garden. You always want to consider light requirements. Does the plant thrive in full sun, part shade, or deep shade? How high and wide does the plant get? Is it a good pollinator plant, or is it even a host plant for specific butterfly and moth species? Is it rabbit and deer resistant, and how does it fare when it's really dry or when it's really wet? There are many valuable online resources like Missouri Botanical Garden Plant Finder, as well as terrific books devoted to choosing the right perennial. We've covered a few of these on the podcast, and we'll highlight more in future episodes. But today, we're going to dig much deeper. You've landed upon the perennial that you know you must plant in your garden. You're lusting after coneflowers or Joe Pye weeds, or you realize you just can't live without some of that garden phlox. But as with many things in life, it's often just not that simple. When you arrive at the garden center ready to buy, you find multiple cultivars or species of the plant you want. Should you plant Monarda, raspberry wine, or purple rooster? You know you want goldenrod, but which is better, Solidago fireworks or golden rays? The good news is there are at least two great resources to help you make these decisions. The brilliant folks at Mount Cuba Center in Delaware and the Chicago Botanical Garden have spent a lot of time and energy growing and evaluating cultivars and species in what they call plant trials. And they're really valuable findings that are available for free online. Let's start with Mount Cuba. It's a not-for-profit botanical garden located near Wilmington, Delaware. Mount Cuba has spectacular display gardens of native woody shrubs and perennial wildflowers and is open to the public. They also offer a variety of courses and certificate programs focusing on native plants and ecological gardening. But today we're going to focus on Mount Cuba's plant trials. Mount Cuba's 15,000 square foot trial garden is maintained with the home gardener in mind. Plants are watered for the first year and then afterward left on their own. Pesticides are not used. Each year the staff chooses several native plants to trial. Multiple taxa of each plant are selected and grown. Trials generally run for 3 years to account for weather variations. Each plant selection is evaluated weekly and rated on a scale of 1 to 5. According to Mount Cuba, the ratings are based upon a variety of factors including habitat, floral display, disease resistance, hardiness, and foliage quality. All of these ratings are averaged for a final score at the end of the trial. The results of these trials are published on Mount Cuba's website. Not only does the website list the top performers in the trial with their final scores, but it also includes photographs, summary descriptions, and basic information like bloom period, size, and whether a cultivar is a pollinator favorite. So you know that coneflower picabella was a top performer because it is compact and floriferous and is a pollinator favorite, and that phlox cultivar Gina was selected as one of the best because it was mildew-free and with impressive floral display and a butterfly magnet. Another great trial resource is the Chicago Botanical Garden. The garden evaluates both herbaceous and woody plants and includes trials of both natives and non-natives. Currently, trials of 24 different plants are underway. Trial results are published in Plant Evaluations Notes, a garden print publication, but it's also a free resource online on their website. The results include a written description of the trial, highlighting some of the best cultivars with a handy chart, including top performers. The cultivars are rated from a scale of 1 to 4 stars. The chart also includes flower color and period of bloom, as well as size, presence of diseases, and winter damage. I use both resources when I'm selecting cultivars. I find them to be extremely helpful, especially when I'm looking for a particular plant with specific characteristics in my garden. So if you find yourself scratching your head about which cultivar or species to choose, add the Mount Cuba and Chicago Botanical Garden plant trials to your list of essential garden resources. You can find all of these relevant links in the show notes to the episode on our website. Until next time, I'm Tim Kennelty.
Welcome to the Grateful Shed, a new Nature Calls segment focused on garden tools. I'm Annie Scibienski. Before we focus on specific garden tools, I want to share a couple of thoughts on the wood used for tool handles. You'll want to choose your garden tools for long-lasting performance, so if the handle and shaft are made from wood, it should be hardwood. The handles of good garden tools are typically fashioned from ash, and the reason to choose ash is that it has a fine grain and a natural shock-absorbing quality that makes it shatter-resistant to the forces of normal garden duties. Only American hickory is stronger, and you'll see that used for handles on some digging tools, as well as heavy impact tools like axes, hammers, mallets, sledges, and hatchets. So when we suggest an ash or hickory handle, that's the background thinking. Usually I talk about cooking with garden vegetables, so I'm going to start this new segment by talking about forks. The garden fork is also called a spading fork or a digging fork. It has a handle and a square-shouldered head with typically 4 short, tapered, and sturdy tines. The garden fork is the all-around number 1 fork for the Grateful Shed. It's used for loosening, lifting, and turning over soil. It's effective in digging into hard packed earth since all of the pressure driven through the tool is focused on the 4 thin, chisel-pointed tines. You'll want a garden fork if you need to break up hard, packed soil. You place the tines against the soil and with 1 foot press or stand on the shoulder of the fork to drive it down as far into the ground as possible. Then you pull back on the handle toward you to pry up the soil. This breaks or loosens the soil. You repeat these steps until the soil is loose and crumbly. Another way to use a garden fork is to mix compost or other organic matter into your soil, making sure that it's evenly distributed. This will help improve soil fertility and provide natural nutrients for your plants. You'll be happy to have the tool on hand when you're harvesting root vegetables. Quick side note, I've put a link to the show notes to Teresa's Veggie Patch episode on root vegetables. You can hear about growing root vegetables there. In addition to using the tool as a cultivator and harvester, you'll use it to aerate your garden soil. To use it for aerating soil, insert the tines into the soil and gently rock the fork back and forth to create holes. Repeat this process every few inches until the entire area has been aerated. Be careful, though, not to damage any plant roots while you're doing this aerating motion. Putting your garden fork to use in this way increases nutrient and water absorption and encourages earthworm activity, all of which improve your soil structure, which of course gives the roots of your plants a better chance to thrive. You'll use the fork too for turning your compost pile and for mixing in other materials. Choose a garden fork made of forged steel that comes halfway up the length of the fork and is riveted to an ash or hickory handle. A tool like this won't bend under heavy use. That makes it a long-lasting investment. On to other forks you may want in your grateful shed. A pitchfork or hay fork is used to pitch loose material such as hay, straw, manure, or leaves. It has a long handle and usually 2 to 5 thin tines designed to effectively move agricultural materials. The pitchfork has a couple of slight advantages over the garden fork. It'll be up to you to decide if your adventures warrant another tool. A standard 4-tined pitchfork is the best choice for breaking up and turning compost. The 4 curved tines make it easy to lightly pull apart clumps of compost without disturbing the soil beneath. This type of pitchfork is also great for aerating the soil around plants in a raised bed or garden since it can reach deeper into the soil than a garden fork. Use a broad fork, which is a shallow cultivation tool, to prepare your garden beds. When you cultivate shallowly, no deeper than 2 inches, you can kill off weed sprouts without bringing up weed seeds, which may be buried more deeply in the soil. Sometimes a broad fork is called a U-fork. It has 2 long vertical handles, one at each end of a crossbar that sports 5 or 6 tines. To use the tool, you hold each handle in one hand, place the tines where you want to start cultivating, use your foot on the crossbar to press the tines into the soil, and then pull back on the handles. This lifts the soil without turning it over. It's a good tool for shallow cultivation. A hand fork, as the name suggests, is great for breaking up soil and cultivating in smaller areas. There are, of course, many more forks in grateful sheds across our region. You may hear of digging forks, bedding forks, manure forks, and drags. I'll include a link to a comprehensive book on tools in the show notes. Look for Smith & Hawken, The Toolbook for the Well-Tended Garden by William Bryant Logan. A copy is available in my library. I'm a member of the Mid-Hudson Library System. That's it for this episode of The Grateful Shed. I'm Annie Scibienski. Hi, I'm Annie Scibienski. This is The Grateful Shed. Today I want to talk about shovels, spades, and trowels. Dig it? Our Nature Calls co-host Gene Thomas is happiest when we define our terms up front and we can all proceed into the conversation with a common understanding. The terms shovel and spade are frequently used interchangeably, but there are differences. While you should call a thing by its proper name, it's important to understand what you need to accomplish and to choose the right tool for the task. A shovel's blade is bowl-shaped with a rounded or pointed tip. It typically has a long, straight handle, a large blade, and is used for digging, breaking up, turning, and throwing soil or other scoopable medium. A spade has a flat or nearly flat head blade with a straight edge. Most frequently, a spade has a shorter handle shaft topped by a T-shaped or D-shaped handle. With the smaller blade than a shovel, a spade's good for slicing through roots and neatly cutting edges. It's also used for moving soil and other loose material like gravel. A garden trowel is similar to a spade or a shovel, but it's a small tool designed to be used with one hand. It can be used to dig holes, small holes, mixing soil and planting medium, potting plants, and even light weeding. If you're going to put a shovel or a spade in your grateful shed, most gardeners will agree that it should be a long-handled, standard, round-pointed shovel. Its versatility makes it useful for a wide variety of garden tasks, and that's good, because we all know that leaning on a shovel and praying for a hole will not get the job done. Because of the round point, it's good for breaking ground. It allows you to concentrate all your force or effort to a single point on the ground. The roll-top edge of the blade lets you put your foot atop and add foot-pound pressure to your thrust. Oomph! Once the ground's broken, with the concave shape of the blade, you can scoop up your soil and carry it or throw it without too much spillage. The shape's also suitable for mixing and moving cement or stirring your compost. When you're choosing a shovel, it's better that the top edge is rolled forward toward the face of the shovel. This helps keep the material in the shovel when you scoop or carry and prevent it from sliding off the top when you throw. The shovel has a curved edge. This is an attractive attribute for digging round holes, as so many gardeners do. The long handle lets you position your hands differently, selecting comfortable hand grips for the different tasks of digging, scooping, and throwing. The long handle provides leverage, too, when you're, say, trying to pry a rock out of the ground. The combination of the long handle for leverage, the round point for concentrating your force, and the rolled edge allowing you to put your foot into the effort combine to make the shovel a rather credible post hole digger, too. And don't let anyone minimize the value of the long handle. When the work is done, it allows you to stand proud and tall and gaze admiringly at all you've accomplished. Well, maybe you can lean on it a little. A variation on the standard round point shovel is one with a smaller blade. Sometimes it's called a border shovel or a floral shovel. It has a bit shorter long handle and the advantages that the long handle offers, but the smaller blade is lighter, so that might be easier on your back if that's a consideration. The second go-to tool that I'd want handy is the garden trowel. It's great for planting and transplanting seedlings, scooping potting mix, sprinkling soil around transplants. It's also good for digging out stubborn, long-rooted weeds. Many have a depth gauge imprinted right into the metal blade. This is a super useful feature if you're planting or transplanting to a specific depth. Press the trowel into the soil to the desired depth, scoop out the soil, plant with one hand, and sprinkle the soil back in from the trowel with the other. You'll use your trowel for close-up work. You'll be sitting, squatting, or kneeling near your work area, so handle length isn't typically a consideration. But I will say comfort is. Visit the garden center before adding a trowel to your wish list or making a purchase. Either a solid aluminum or stainless steel trowel will resist breaking or bending and be easy to keep clean and care for. There are, of course, specialty trowels that make certain tasks easier, like weeding or bowl planting, but a good all-around garden trowel is a great place to start. One thing that the round-pointed workhorse shovel or an all-around garden trowel won't do is dig or edge as neatly as a square-point spade. The spade, too, is a jack of all trades in its own way. It can cut straight edges around a formal bed or edge the lawn where the sidewalk meets yard. It can be used to pry rocks from the soil. It can be used to break up clumps. You can use it to dig straight trenches for deep row plant. You can even use the blade to scrape weeds between your tidy garden vegetable rows. Like shovels and trowels, there are many varieties of the tool called spade. I counted over 20 in the excellent reference book Smith and Hawken, the tool book for the well-tended garden by William Bryant Logan. Variables include blade size, shaft size, handle type, material and construction, or specialty use. Likely, the utilitarian one that you'll want to pull out of the grateful shed or put on your wish list is a pressed steel garden spade. Look for a solid forged head like the shovel, a top edge rolled toward the face of the blade, a long metal piece, either a strap or a socket, maybe halfway up the length of the handle, coming up from the blade and attaching to the wood handle made of hardwood, typically ash. Look, too, for a comfortable handle. Don't choose tools after window shopping or internet shopping. Go to a garden center where you can feel the tools in your hand and where an experienced seller can answer your questions about durability and care. In closing, I leave you with this thought. The invention of the shovel was groundbreaking. Thanks for listening. I'm Annie Scibienski.
That concludes another episode of Nature Calls, Conversations from the Hudson Valley. We would like to thank Xandra Powers and Devin Connolly from the Cornell Cooperative Extension of Columbia and Greene Counties for production support. And a special thanks to our listeners for joining us on this episode of Nature Calls. Conversations from the Hudson Valley. You can find links to any of the topics mentioned in this episode at our website at ccecolumbiagreen.org. Comments and suggestions for future topics may be directed to us at columbiagreenmgv@cornell.edu or on the CCE Master Gardener Volunteers of Columbia and Green Facebook page. For more information about CCE of Columbia and Green, visit our website or visit in person during business hours at our campuses in Hudson or Acra. Cornell Cooperative Extension provides equal programming and educational opportunities.